If you want to communicate with any spirit, whether it's a loved one, spirit guide, or any other being in the spirit world, this is how you can have a flowing conversation without having to rely on signs. Hi, my name's August Gonsalves, and I teach people how to communicate with the spirit world without all the woo and mystery. So the number one thing that you want to do when you first connect with the spirit world in order to have this flowing type conversation is you have to understand that it doesn't start off that way right away, right? When we start to communicate with the spirit, it's more fragmented, right? We might get a word or a fragmented sentence, right? And we might not even hear it, right? We could see it, feel it, or just know it, all right? There's many other ways that the spirit world communicates back to us where our senses interpret it into words, okay? And so they might just give you a few words, a few fragments of a word, of a sentence. And when we're communicating, the way that you're going to get yourself into that flowing back and forth conversation is by continuing to prompt yourself and ask more questions, right? For instance, if the spirit says, oh, I worked at an office job, you might want to say, well, where did you work? What position did you hold, right? Did you enjoy your job? Were there other people around you, right? You want to get curious, right? That's the way that you get into the flowing conversation. You get curious and investigate the information that the spirit is giving you already. Okay. And so we don't want to just allow them to say, oh, I had two kids. Was it a boy and a girl? Did you have two boys? Tell me more about them. You know, were you guys close? Did you guys live together? What about your, the rest of your family, right? We want to investigate. We want to get curious. And when you do that, what happens is the spirit is answering you the whole time, right? They're giving you that information. They always answer instantly, right? It's us that kind of misses some of the stuff, or it's us that don't really, that can't really take it as fast as the spirit is giving it to us. Because remember, they're communicating through energy, right? And we're feeling that energy and our senses are interpreting that energy. And then our brain is trying to catch up to understand what we just felt through the energy, okay? And so we miss so much and we're only picking up on fragments. And so when we continue to ask, they continue to answer and we start to get a picture. And what eventually happens is the more that we prompt ourselves, right? That's what I call it, self-prompting, right? If you're just like, oh, waiting for the spirit to say something, they may already be speaking, right? But we're not receiving it, or they may not say anything, may be waiting for you to speak. So if we're just, hey, spirit guide, come give me a message, right? They might be there saying, hey, I'm here, right? Or they may be like, well, what kind of message do you want, right? And so it's all about expectations. And so when we go to, when we ask the spirit for more details, when we ask the spirit for clarification, when we keep going in and getting more information, it is going to turn into a flowing conversation because the energy is building, right? Then they're going to start speaking and then we're going to be more receptive and we're going to start feeling more of what they're saying, right? We're going to start picking up on more what they're transmitting through the energy, okay? And so that's the way that we get ourselves into a flowing conversation. And listen, in the beginning, we got to give ourselves some leeway, right? We can't, so many people are hard on themselves, right? When they first come in and learn this, they're like, my third time ever trying to connect and I didn't have a flowing conversation, but I picked up on three things. That's wonderful, right? That's great. You picked up on three things, two or three, even one, or I just felt this lightness in my chest, whatever it is, like that's amazing if you're just trying to do this the first couple times, but as you get into this, and it doesn't take long, as long as you're trying every day, you're eventually going to start to hit something and it's going to be undeniable. And then you're going to be there. All right. So everybody, welcome to the live. I really appreciate you all tuning in. I'm excited to connect with you guys and see what's going on. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Let me know what your favorite video is that I've done too, because I use you guys for inspiration to create more content. And so just pop in the chat. Let me know where you're from, or if you have any questions, ask your questions. That's what I'm here for today. I'm here to connect with you. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to just check in and see how everyone's doing. All right. This week is kind of like an easy, soft week for me. We're going to be celebrating. Thank you so much. we're going to be celebrating my oldest daughter's birthday, and we're kind of going away on a family vacation, which I'll keep you guys updated on that, by the way. You know, I'll send you some video clips and post some stuff, but we're going to be going on a little vacation. It's kind of an end of the summer hoorah, and, you know, tied in with the celebration. So I'm just going to go live a couple times this week rather than trying to post a bunch of videos. It seems to be easier that way. And so, let me know your questions. Let me know what you love about my content and what you would like to see more of, okay? Let's go to the chat and see what everybody's up to. Nook, thank you for the gift. Very appreciate that. Red, hello, welcome to the live. Cindy, hi from Michigan, welcome. Carrie, welcome to the live. Jamie, welcome. Oh, we got Red from the Philippines. Awesome, awesome. Thank you for joining in. What time is it in the Philippines? Phyllis, how can I get my bad dreams to stop? They're horrible sometimes. You know, our bad dreams a lot of the times is just our subconscious discharging material throughout the day. And so I need a little bit more context to answer that. So I can just give you a couple little things, making a few assumptions, and hopefully that helps. Assuming that, you know, you're not watching anything crazy on TV, or, you know, not involved in any kind of like traumatic experiences through the day, or in kind of any like difficult situation that you're in all day. You know, absent that, usually what's happening is our dreams are expressing something in our subconscious, and it's always has to do with healing, right? It's something that we're not yet conscious of. And so it'd be important to, you know, in your situation is to pay attention to what dreams are coming up, and they're not literal, right? They're not very literal dreams, right? You have to take them in a very irrational way. And so they're more, what's the right word? Our dreams are more philosophical, right? For lack of a better word, than anything else. And so, for instance, when I was going through a lot of healing years ago, when I was deep into therapy, doing a lot of somatic work, I would have very violent dreams myself. But when I looked at the scene as a whole, what I recognized is it was some sort of complex. It was some sort of healing that was coming to the surface. I was killing off a part of myself, right, that I've carried for so long, and so the new self can emerge. So there was a part of me that was dying, right, at my own hand, right, a part that needed to die, right, and so there was a part of that was happening so the new self can emerge, or so that more of my true self would be revealed. And so I would say if you want to look at Jungian dream interpretation, you know, for yourself, you might find that very helpful. Corinna, welcome. Linda, welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in. Gamby, welcome. Lisa, welcome. David, how's it going? David says, why can't I dream? You're dreaming, we don't remember them when we wake up. You know, that's most of it. There are some different techniques that you can use to remember your dreams. And so I would recommend you kind of check into some of those things. So Cindy wants to know, how come I'm not dreaming about my loved one and other people are? Well, there's a few different reasons why this can happen. The most common thing is that our loved ones are around us so often that, well, let me back up first. Our loved ones, first of all, they're not coming into a dream. All right, that's not what's happening. There's no way for them to enter your dream because our dreams are subconscious. All right, our dreams are what our own subconscious brings to the surface, all right, when we're in that REM sleep. And so there's no way for them to get into our subconscious and create this whole experience. What's really happening is your body is asleep and your mind is awake, and you're visiting them in the spirit world, okay? You're visiting that conscious part of who you are is sleeping. All right, and the rest of who you are is actually visiting with them in the spirit world. It's a real visitation, right? Not just a dream, okay? It's actually happening. And the way that you know that it's actually happening and it's not something being projected from your subconscious is that it feels so real that you forget that they've even passed. right? And it can be really emotional when you wake up because it's like you've had more moments with them. It's like you've had another experience with them. And it's so real, you know that it wasn't a dream. That's how you tell. Now, Cindy, I want to ask, is that the type of dream that the other people are having? Because if not, it's just a subconscious projection, okay? And here's what I say to people, because I know the next question is going to be, well, how do I have that experience? Well, here's the thing. It's a very passive experience when we do have that. It's more of us observing while they're visiting and they're doing everything, right? There's so much of us that's asleep that we can't really interact in the experience. It's more of them coming, delivering messages, talking to us, even hugging us. We can't, we don't really ask a lot of follow-up questions, or we're not conscious of the questions that we're asking. So it's a very passive experience when we dream about them. And so I can't really tell you how to make that happen. That's not part of what I have experimented and experienced. What I prefer to do is talk to them right now, as I'm awake, as I'm grounded in the body, and actively reach out to them rather than waiting for them to come to us, because they're already around us, right? And when we actively reach out, we become aware of that, okay? And so I like to do it from this very grounded perspective here, as I am now, in my energy, in my everyday energy, and just say, hey, let's talk, let's have a conversation, let's have an experience. And when you do that from that very grounded perspective, okay, and not in some kind of like dream that's like, dreams are like, ooh, dreamy, right? When we're grounded and we connect with our loved ones, we can have a more deep and rich experience because we can actually reply to what they're saying. We can ask for hugs, right? We can ask to feel their presence. We can ask them to give us signs, right? We can actually have a conversation with them, a flowing conversation like I was mentioning earlier, okay? And so there's a lot more that we can respond to in our waking state rather than when something happens more passively as we're dreaming, okay? I hope that helps you, Cindy. Okay, so here's a good question. What happens when a spirit is trying to get your attention? Okay, what happens is that when you ignore them, they just try harder. Okay, they do more stuff. And so the important thing to do is if you know there's a spirit around, acknowledge it. Say, hey, I know that you're here. Okay, what do you want? Communicate to me in a way that I'm going to understand, because right now you're just freaking me out. Right? You're startling me, whatever it is, right? And I want to be clear, there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. You are safe. Communicate with every single spirit that you sense. And I know there's a lot of controversy. I get a lot of heat over this, but let me tell you guys, I've worked with thousands of people. None of us have ever come across anything like that. And there's all these excuses people will give for the reason why. I can tell you that while I've come across dark and heavy energy, and why that does exist, it is grossly misunderstood. And when you get to understand it, you'll see that it's no different than you and I. There's just reasons they're projecting that energy, okay? And when you see them for what they are instead of what they become, they turn into that light just like you and I, okay? And not to mention, even when they're in that state, they cannot harm you. They cannot harm you. Yes, it may be startling, the first few times that you experience it, because you don't know what it is, okay? But here's the thing, right? If you have a spirit that's trying to get your attention, unless you're dabbling in heavy energy, unless your life is just, one big ball of like you committing negative experiences, you hurting people, you doing things on purpose, you like just being a shitty human being, right? Unless you're like that, you will almost never experience any kind of heavy energy like that, all right? So that's number one. Number two, if a spirit's trying to get your attention, it is probably a loved one. That's all it is, right? And so just acknowledge it, right? Just acknowledge it, communicate with it. And let's say, oh, it is heavy energy. Then you just, get its story. Be like, why are you here? How did it happen? How did you get this way? Why are you doing this to me? Right? Or we can even why are you this way? What happened to you to get you this way? And get its story and talk to it with compassion. And that's how we see them for who they truly are rather than what they've become, right? It's like, it's like having a different perspective. Like you meet somebody, right, in the grocery store, and they're like really rude and nasty to you for no reason, right? And you might be like, oh man, I want to be away from them. Like that's awful. But what we don't think about all the time is like, what did that person just go through, right? Did they just lose a child? Did they just lose somebody that they loved? Were they just fired from their job? Right? Are they like been up for 3 days because they're anxious and they're there getting something to eat and they didn't have the food that they want, right? Are they just having a really shitty day? Right? And so that's kind of what it's like with dark and heavy energy. It's just a spirit that's having a really shitty day. They're still a good spirit, okay? And so in that note, if you sense a spirit, don't ignore it, talk to it, get its story, find out why it's there. 99.9% of the time, it's going to be one of your loved ones, maybe even a spirit guide. Maya, hi. Andy, hello. Oh, manifestation. Oh, we got a good manifestation question. You guys interested in manifestation? I have a hot take on manifestation that is completely different probably than anything you've ever heard. And so let me know in the comments if you want to talk. I know that I'm more about spirit communication and these things. I do like to talk about other spiritual subjects, but while I'm connecting with you guys, what's the consensus? Do you want me to talk about manifestation for a little bit? Let me know in the comments. Let me get a drink. You guys don't mind. While I'm going through the comments, tap that like button. Tap the share button. The more that you guys interact and ask questions and engage with this live, the more that it's going to get out. This information is going to get out to people that need it. And so I would really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. It would allow me to serve more people the more that you share this and interact with this live. And also the people that are coming in that need this information, you're touching them as well. You're helping them. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. All the likes, roses. Thank you, Gam Gam. Susie, welcome. Ursula, welcome to the live. You guys are in the right place. Where are the spirits of earthbound souls? So Chess, this is a great question. Where are the spirits of the earthbound souls? Okay, so earthbound souls are like, there's a lot of misinformation and bad information out there when it comes to earthbound spirits, okay? So, and the reason why is because most psychic mediums in spiritual teachings have one foundational principle, okay, or fact, you can call it, whatever, that's lacking, that there is no understanding, right? So here's how, let me explain it with traditional spirituality or New Age spirituality, okay? There's a soul, we are a soul in our body, right? Most people understand that, most people know that. We're a soul, we're in our body, all right? When our body dies, there's this little orb of light that goes back into the spirit world. All right. And we're that little orb of light, right? Or whatever, however you want it to look, like this ghost shaped human figure goes off into the spirit world. All right. That is fundamentally incorrect. And that's where a lot of these teachings get things wrong. All right. So the traditional spiritual teachings say that when the body dies, the little ghost spirit goes out of your body and just stays here on earth. Okay. But what's actually happening, what we need to understand, all right, is that we're so much more than the energy in this body, all right? We are omnipresent beings. We exist everywhere. We exist here in the physical dimension, and we're already in spirit world. Here's the way I like to explain it. Imagine that you are dipping your toe into a pool. All right. The pool is Earth. The pool is the physical dimension. It's just your toe in there. It's just your toe in this body, right? And when we pass, we pull our toe out of the water, okay? And so when we shed the body, all right? And so when you look at it from that perspective, there's a whole new gamut of questions that come up, okay? So Because we're these omnipresent beings and we exist everywhere. And the other layer to this also is that spirit world is not separate from this reality. Spirit world and all the other dimensions are interwoven, right? It's like my fingers, right? Everything is here layered on top of each other, wrapped together in this huge energy soup. Okay, so spirit world isn't over there. Earth isn't down here. This other place isn't up here. There aren't different levels, right? You're not ascending higher, right? Everything is right here. Okay, and it's not even in one place, right? Because we could, how deep do you want to go with this subject, right? It's not even in one place, right? Because there is no place, and there only are places in the physical. When you're in the energetic, it's just everything, right? There's no time, there's no space, there's no one point of reference. Okay, it's very different. All right, it's very different than our physical reality, but it's all still interwoven. All right. And so when we look at it from that, all dimensions are interwoven, including the physical dimension, and we're just a little part of our energies in this physical body, and the rest of us is omnipresent, exists everywhere across all planes, all dimensions, everywhere of existence. Okay. When you talk about earthbound spirits now from this perspective, what's happening is when the body dies, that little part of our energy that's in the body just kind of hangs out in this dimension for a little bit. All right. Not forever. Okay, but it just hangs out for whatever reason. There's unfinished business. We had a hard time letting go of somebody. There's some sort of trauma or something. There's something that needs to be cleaned up in this dimension, and the spirit will work that out on its own. They don't need any help at all. We can help them, but the spirit does not need our help at all. Once it resolves whatever it wants to, whatever it needs to in this dimension, it becomes aware again. Oh, I'm this omnipresent being, right? It's not split off. It's not disconnected. That part of our awareness, that part of our consciousness is here in the physical dimension as a spirit. But the larger part of us, right? And it's not split off. We're not separate from that. We are that right now. It's not the higher self. It's just us. There's no higher and lower self, okay? It's just us. Right now, your awareness is focused in this physical dimension. You can project it into the spirit world and communicate with your loved ones and spirit guides. That's how we communicate, right? Or you can project it to the 9th dimension. You can project it to the 5th dimension. You can project it to the 1,000,001th dimension, right? And be aware of what's going on there. Right now, you're aware of what's going on here. Okay, and so that's what happens with earthbound spirits, is they're just aware of this existence, just like you're only aware of it right now. All right, and once they wake up and realize, oh, okay, once they work out what they want to work out, they're like, oh, I'm a spirit. Oh my goodness, I'm so much bigger than this. And then the awareness goes back into that. Then we have the awareness of the totality of who we are. Right. And then from there, we go and reincarnate, or we just hang out in some other dimension, or, we have other things to do. All right. And so when we look at earthbound spirits from that premise, okay, the question of where is the spirit of an earthbound soul? It is the spirit. It's not separate. It's not broke off. Okay. It's just about awareness. Another way to say that is, where is the awareness of an earthbound spirit? Well, it's here on earth. And once that spirit works out whatever it needs to work out and it shifts its awareness, that's it. It's good. Let me see, where did I put my glasses? Uh-oh, here they are. Whatever you guys, I guess you see if you have any more questions about that. Maria, welcome. Cindy, welcome. Yeah, Christy, I haven't been live in a while. I haven't been live in a couple of weeks. How do I live in my authenticity and not lose everyone in my life? K-Dog, oh, this is such a good question. Oh, this is such a good question. How do I live in my authenticity and not lose everyone in my life? Man, when I had my spiritual awakening, everything in my life shifted. I was a new person. Right? I was a completely different person. All right. so much of me, so much of who I was not, let me phrase that in a different way. So much of who I was not fell away, and my true self, who I truly am, my authentic self, shined through. All right. And I wasn't a new person. I just revealed who I truly was. All right. And that's what happens. And so when that did happen, I could not participate in a lot of the games that I was participating in, the drama, the negative people, not just negative people, but like doing bad shit people, right? The people, people that were overly religious and just constantly preaching about different things, right? There was so many things in my life that I couldn't do. A lot of stuff with family too, right? There was this whole family dynamic that I was wrapped up in that I wasn't able to see, and it was just toxic, right? And so, unfortunately, living in our authenticity, a lot of that stuff falls away with who we used to be. A lot of that falls, let me rephrase that again. A lot of that stuff falls away with the stuff that wasn't us when we start to heal. All right. And so there's really no way around it. When it comes to those that are really close to us, we don't want those relationships to break apart, and they often do. And clinging to them will cause us more pain than just letting them go. I will say that there are people in my life that it's sometimes it's impossible to let go of people in your life. Those people I have a superficial relationship with now. We're not close. We're not close like we used to be, because the closeness that we used to have was toxic, right? It was just full of drama and bullshit, right? And so because I have family in my life, and in order to interact with this loving family that is healed, that is beautiful, I have to interact with others that have more of a toxic dynamic, that want to be negative, that want to, project all of these games and do all of this stuff. And so in order to be a part and be around a loving family, you have to distance yourself from those people and have healthy boundaries and do the work on yourself, because when they come in with their drama and bullshit, you have to be able to hold up a hand to that and say, no, this is yours, and I will not participate in it. Right? And that's the best advice that I can give to you. If you're clinging to somebody that you should let go of, it's only going to cause you pain. If there's people in your life, like I mentioned, that you cannot let go, but should, you need to distance yourself, create that superficial relationship with them. So when you're in an event or in an environment where they're around, you have healthy, strong boundaries. You've done enough healing work that their drama, even if they try and involve you, does not bother you. All right? Or you don't let it affect you. It always will bother you. You don't let it affect you in that moment. You deal with it later, and you work, you enjoy your time with those that you are there to see. That's a really good question, though. I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough, right? We always talk about having these spiritual awakenings or having these healing moments and coming into these beautiful awarenesses and having this life of harmony, but there's a dark side to that as well, right? A lot of things that you are used to, a lot of things that you identified with are getting ripped away, and it fucking hurts. Allison, welcome. No, Mems, there is no heaven or hell. We're all in the same place. Here's a good question. Is it possible to accidentally peek or bring an awareness to another dimension? Yeah, it happens all the time. Deja vu. We can kind of do that in deja vu. And also, I've experienced it, I experienced it randomly as well, right? For whatever reason. I can't even tell you, why I guess, so a lot of times when I'm daydreaming, right? When I'm off in my own head, I'm like, whoa, what was that? Right? And for some reason, I always break off to the ninth dimension for some reason. And it's this beautiful pink and purple place with these, amazing crystal structures and buildings. Very busy place, beautiful beings that reside there. But for some reason, I break off to that quite often. So yes, it is possible. Yeah, Melvin's like, say that to our scientists, right? Well, the thing of it is, though, is that science is just starting to understand this, right? Metaphysics and physics is the gap is getting closer between those two, and so it is it's such a experiencing the spirit world and all the shit that I'm talking about today is such a very subjective experience, right? There's nothing like I can say, like I can grab out of the ethers and say, here's proof. Here you go. Even if I can just bring through some information that is about you or about a loved one that is undeniably correct, in the back of somebody's mind who doesn't really believe, they're going to be like, oh, they guessed. Oh, they researched me beforehand. Oh, they're doing this super like crazy mentalist technique, or whatever it is. Somebody that doesn't believe is always going to create an excuse, no matter how much somebody can talk about it, how much verbal evidence they want to deliver. Nobody's going to believe it unless they experience it. And when we talk about evidence, or when I talk about evidence, when I talk about undeniable experiences, that's what I'm talking about, is my own experiences, right? And I would never ever try and convince anyone that this was real, but I will help you have an experience if you genuinely want to know. I will help you have an experience so you can discover it for yourself. And that evidence, your subjective experience, is going to be all the evidence that you need. Right? How many of you, let me know in the comments, how many of you have had an experience that is absolutely real and you have no doubt, right? Maybe you have trouble recreating it, maybe you have trouble doing it again, but you've had at least one, if you're on this live, many of you probably have had at least one experience that you're like, that's all the proof I need. For sure, it's real, right? That's the moment that other people need to have that don't really believe in this, right? Science, a lot of scientists and truth seekers, and I really relate to that. I don't think anybody should blindly believe any of the concepts or any of the stories that any spiritual teacher talks about, including myself. I don't think that you guys should believe any of the information that I talked about here on this live. I think that you should go and have your own experiences and figure it out for yourself. And that's what I like to do, right? That is what I'm here to do, right? I'm here to help you have those experiences, not to give you information, not to tell you how it is, not to teach you about spirit communication, but to help you experience it, right? Teaching doesn't do anything unless you can experience it, right? And in order to experience it, you have to find your unique way of connecting. And that's really what I try and do here my hardest. My number one thing is to deliver my content in a way and have these lives and interactions and answer questions in a way that allows you to discover your unique way of connecting, because everyone is different, okay? I've worked with thousands of people and there are no two that have connected the same, all right? And so that's why a lot of the information out there, it'll get you some experiences. It will help you. You can go take courses. You can go take classes. You can go do these things. You'll get yourself in having some experiences. But that's why none of it is consistent. That's why none of it is taking you to the level that you want, to having those undeniable communications anytime that you want, getting answers of anything in your life whenever you want, looking into the energy of decisions, the energy of your life, finding meaning, finding purpose, finding plans, like doing all of that stuff, right? When you need it, anytime that you want, is because you haven't discovered your unique way of connecting, all right? And so that's what I'm here to do. That's what my mission is. I want to help you discover how to do that, all right? And so, like I mentioned, my content does that. My content is for that, all right? It's why it's mostly experiential, all right? And I do run a mentorship program where I work with you personally and hold your hand and walk you into those experiences so we can figure out your unique way of connecting. All right. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, by the way, you can go to the link in my bio and you can schedule an interview. All right. I always do interviews before I work with people. And so if you're wanting to work with me in that way, go to the link in my bio, schedule an interview. If there's not a time available that works for you, just shoot me an email. I know I don't have many times available right now. But anyway, that's there for you guys if you need it. Oh, this is such a good question too. Here's another good one. Because this question allows us to go really deep. All right. This question allows us to go really deep. And so this person says, is it possible for my husband to tell me that he wasn't going to make it while he was on life support? Absolutely yes. And this is how. We don't have to wait for somebody to pass to communicate with them, all right? On a spiritual level, through our senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, smelling, and tasting energetically, all right? We can communicate with a living person, all right? Just the same way we communicate with somebody who has passed, because it's just energy. Remember how I said we are omnipresent beings? There's just a portion of our energy focused in this physical body. Well, we can communicate to the part of them with the part of them that is not in a physical body. And that's what we're doing, right? When your husband's in the coma, there's that part of him that's here in the physical body, but that's that larger portion of him that's going to communicate, that's looking down going, yeah, I'm not going to make this. I feel myself leaving my body. And there's that part that says, boom, they can communicate. And it works vice versa, right? You are communicating back with your husband while they're in the coma as well. Right? And they're conscious and they're aware of what you're communicating, right? Maybe not on that physical level, but on the soul and spiritual level, on that larger part of who they truly are, who we truly are. They're hearing it. They're getting all that information. Even outside of a coma, somebody that's perfectly healthy and walking around right now, you can communicate with their energy. Now, they might not be consciously aware of it, but they will feel it on some subtle level. Yeah, we don't have to wait for somebody to pass to talk to them energetically. Hey, Vin, what's going on, my friend? Haven't seen you in a little while. Hope you're doing well. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. There's a lot of misinformation. This is a question about auras, how to see auras. Auras we can actually see with our physical eyes. It's one of the very few energies that we can see because the aura is almost physically present, all right? That's why we have a very, very good sense and feeling when somebody is near, all right? Is because the aura is almost physically present, all right? And so the way that you can see an aura, you're not gonna be able to see it here on the screen. It's difficult to see through the screen. You might be able to, but it's more difficult to see through the screen. It's easier to do it in person. Now, you can sometimes see your own aura if you can hold your hand out far enough against like a white background, right? You wanna hold it against a white background, all right? Yeah, I can see mine right now. So you don't wanna hold it in any kind of like I have a window right here. I wouldn't hold it against the window. You want to have it like against a white wall, all right? And if you stare at it very intensely, you will start to see the outline of something. Now, there are no colors, right? I don't believe auras are just different colors. The color thing, I'm not sure where all that comes from, all right? But auras are, usually light to dark, all right? Light to dark. All right. And if you hold your hand up against a white background, you stare at it intensely, you will start to see very closely to the edges of your skin. Okay. A little line. Okay. And if you have some issue in your hand, you'll see where it's darker, right? You'll have like, if I had arthritis in my finger, you would see in one finger, right? You would see where it's darker around that one finger. Okay. And so hold it up, try it. And this works for anyone, right? You can, when I was teaching live, right, we would do live demonstrations on this where I would have somebody come up to the front of the room and we would pull down, a white background and have them stand against it. And, I would tell everybody exactly what I told you, and every single person would see the aura. Right? Everybody would see it. So it's easy. It doesn't take this, it's not this mystical thing, right? And so now maybe your question is, well, what do we do with this? Well, it's kind of cool, right? But what you can do with this is you can look at somebody's aura and energy field and see where their ailments are, right? If somebody is having some sort of problems physically, you can kind of check the aura and see where the darker areas are. This works really well for people that are having some sort of chronic issue and unsure where it's radiating from, because this will kind of help you hone in on this, right? And of course, this is not medical advice. If you do this, go get it confirmed with a medical doctor, right? You always, we have a physical body, right? And we need physical healing for that body. All right, we can do energetic stuff, but at the end of the day, we need to combine both of them. Okay, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, you can get healed by energy, right? We can use energy to find things out. We can use energy to move things along. But if we have some chronic ailments, we need physical intervention as well. We need medical intervention as well. All right. So that's one of the things you can use. Another way that you can feel the aura as well is that if you have somebody stand in front of you and you just hold your hands out maybe a foot or two off their energy and kind of push in, you can feel their aura bounce back, right? And this works too, also sensing ailments. If you can walk around somebody pushing on them where the aura feels weak, where your hand may go in a little bit more, okay? Thanks for whatever that was. Where you feel your hand go in a little bit more, a little bit closer, that's going to be where there's something going on. It's a weak spot in the aura, okay? Thank you. Man, we got a bunch of gift givers on this, man. Thank you. You guys are so generous. You guys are loving this live. You're getting a lot of information. I hope you guys are taking a lot away from this. You guys are asking really, really good questions here. So I appreciate it. Let me know what let me know. Keep asking your questions. Let me know if you're enjoying this. All right, here's another great one. Marie, this is for you. Are you asking me though? Oh, so she's asking me. So Marie's asking me, how do I hear my messages? Do I hear them? Do I see them? Do I feel them? And it's all of the above. All right. It just is, how does it get my attention first, right? So if I'm intentionally connected, right? So let's take it from two different perspectives. There's one where I intentionally connect, right? Because we can connect anytime we want, all right? And then there's other times where I'm just going about my day and I'm like, ooh, something catches my attention. And so that's an unintentional connect, all right? So we can look at it from that perspective too. So let's talk about the intentional connection, all right? When I'm going and I'm like, hey, spirit, whatever it is, hey, spirit. We'll say uncle, right? My Uncle Don's here right now. I just had him come in. So we'll say, hey, uncle, what's going on? How are things going? And then when he speaks, what's happening is he's not speaking. He's laughing right now at me. But what happens is that his energy communicates and to my energy, and I feel that energy, and that energy comes up and gets interpreted through my senses, and then my senses deliver something physical, right? My spiritual senses deliver something physical that my brain can now interpret, all right? Because when we don't have the body, it's just energy, vibration, and we're consciously knowing what it is. But because I'm in a physical body, my psychic senses have to translate it into something that my brain can understand. And so he's laughing. He's like, make it more simple. All right. It's like, make it more simple for them. And so basically, to make it more simple, when you're not in a physical body, words don't communicate, energy does. When you are in a physical body, you have to translate that energy into something your brain can understand. Happy? So anyway, so what happens is when I'm connecting, like right now, when I'm connecting with my uncle, like he will say something, I will feel it in my energy, and then I'm either gonna get an image, right? And that image could even be partial image, right? Like I'm seeing him laughing, right? And I could get like a partial image of that laughing, and then that image is going to bring a sound. Now I can hear him laughing, right? And then that's going to bring a feeling. Now I can feel his lightheartedness and jokingness, right? And so it can happen in any way, right? And then I can feel like I could feel how much he loves me, and he could feel how much I love him. And so there's empathy, right? We have these seven senses, all right? And these are psychic senses, all right? Or spiritual senses or gifts, whatever you want to talk about. Everybody has these, all right? It's seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, empathy, taste, and smell, all right? And taste and smell are without the physical stimulus, all right? There is no apple pie baking, but I smell apple pie. There is nobody smoking cigarettes, but I smell cigarettes, okay? And so that's kind of how that works. So the way that I receive information, I might hear the laugh first, then get the image, then feel the jokingness, right? It all depends. It can come any way. And it works that same way for you guys. It works that way for everybody. And so when somebody says, oh, I'm clairvoyant, yeah, you're also all the other ones too, right? If you stop just saying I'm only one, you'll experience all of them. Right. And so, we need to experience, we need to approach it from that way, right? When we're connecting with the spirit world, understand that it's going to come anyway. And the most common way, right? Like I mentioned, I've worked with thousands of people, and the most common way that I see somebody that comes into this initially is a knowing, right? It's like, boom, I just know my uncle's standing right there. Boom, I just know that he's laughing at me, right? I'm not seeing it. I'm not hearing it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not smelling it, I'm not tasting it, right? I just know it, right? It's that first piece of information that comes before you talk yourself out of it and tell yourself it's not real, okay? Or tell yourself that was just you making it up. It's that first piece of information, all right? And so that's what the knowing is, and that's very common. And the reason it's very common is because it's the gut feeling. Right? It's the gut feeling that we get, and everybody gets it. It's acceptable in society to say you have a gut feeling about something. You can walk up to anybody and say, I've got a gut feeling about blah, 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 right? And it's accepted. You walk up to somebody and say, hey, my deceased uncle told me this stuff, right? 90% of the world is going to be like, you're batshit crazy, right? And so the reason that knowing is there is because it's not been conditioned out of us. It's not something that's been wrong, because we're born into this world with all of our abilities intact. We can fully communicate and do all of this stuff. But over our lifetimes, especially very, very young, we get these abilities conditioned out of us through many things, right? Our family, religious beliefs, society, schools, governments, right? All tell us that this stuff is wrong, okay? And so we lose it. But you're constantly hearing people tell you about their gut feelings, and we don't lose that, all right? And so that's very common for you guys. So if you're struggling with this, don't discount the knowing, all right? It comes, it always, always, always comes, and then you talk yourself out of it, right? And the difference between you and somebody that's communicating amazingly with the spirit world is they don't let themselves talk themselves out of it, all right? That knowing is going to come first for most of you. Let's see what other questions we got. I love you guys' questions today. Oh. Yeah, this is a good point. Even scientists can't determine if we're living in a simulation. Yeah, that's really good. Actually, all things in science point to that we are, right? Well, I won't say all. A lot of things, the research points to that we are living in a simulation. Hey, Rhonda, thanks for the follow. I got a lot of comments here. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to scroll through. I'm going to get to you guys. Stephanie says, I have a hard time believing if I heard what I heard. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's the same thing, right? Like I just talked about the knowing, right? I just talked about the knowing and then we talk ourselves out of it. Listen, I don't care how long you've been doing this. I still have it. Everybody still has it. And this is what I teach with my mentorship students as well, is everybody has that little voice in the back of their head that goes, this is all bullshit. This stuff isn't real. You're acting like an idiot, right? That doesn't go away. I don't care how long you've been doing this. I don't care if you were born into this world, and your spiritual gifts were nurtured from a baby. That voice is always there because we're human. We're human, right? And so it's about not listening to that, right? Because it's going to come up. It's going to be there always. It's about we don't listen to that, what we do. And now I'm not saying to blindly believe everything that you hear and see, because sometimes it is us. Sometimes we are having it. It is our imagination, right? And so I'm not saying that we need to just like always assume that that's what it is. All I'm saying is to quiet that voice that says this is all bullshit. All right, quiet that little voice in the back of your head, because it is not your voice. It's the voices of all that told you that it was wrong through your upbringing. It's that voice. It's not yours. Okay? And so when we think of it from that perspective, now from the place of like, okay, well, do I just believe everything and just like, gaslight myself into believing that it's all real? No. No, that's the other extreme of things. We don't want to do that anyway, right? I am huge component of be skeptical, but healthy skepticism, right? Be skeptical, not critical. Right? Judging yourself is critical, right? Talking yourself out of something that you got is critical. What I'm going to do, if I hear something, what I tell my students to do, when you hear something or when you have an experience and that little voice creeps up, you let that go, you go back into the experience, you say, give me some evidence to prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is real and I heard or seen or experienced this correctly. And it's not me making it up. We want to validate through personal experience, right? And then they will, don't ask for anything specific, right? If you're saying, hey, flicker the lights, or I know this isn't me. They might not be able to flicker the lights. Tip this cup of water over, right? If it's you. Well, spirits can't do that anyway. They can't really move physical objects, but whatever, play me this radio song or send me a red dove, right? We don't want to ask for anything specific because they might not be able to do that. All you have to say is, give me a sign that this is real and make it undeniable, and then let go. And you may not get it right then and there. A lot of times you don't. But what happens in the next day, sometimes 2 days, usually happens within a couple of hours to 24 hours. This sign is going to slap you right in the face so hard that you would never even miss it, even if you forgot about the conversation, okay? If it's authentic, and that's how we validate, okay? All right. Barney, welcome. Lainey, welcome. Peggy, welcome. I believe in a higher power. I just believe in the church. That's fine, Bonnie. When I start, yeah. So Tina says, I get messages, but it's a spirit guide, or I get messages. Is it a spirit guide or a loved one? I get thoughts that aren't mine. That's exactly what it sounds like. That's exactly when they communicate. We get thoughts that they can be in our voice, but we can distinctly tell the difference between it being our thoughts and our loved one communicating with us. And here's the thing, or any spirit, right, communicating with us. There's this, it's very subtle. Your thoughts and the thoughts from a spirit, them communicating, the difference is very subtle, okay? But it's not, when you're thinking a thought, that's you creating it, all right? When you receive a thought from the spirit world, you're exactly that, it's you receiving it. Those two things feel different, but it's subtle when you first begin. So here's what I tell people is that you have to Actively communicate with the spirit world over and over and over again, even if it sounds like your thoughts, even if you feel like you're making it up, even if it doesn't seem like it's real. Keep going, keep trying, because what's going to happen eventually is you're going to receive that thought. You're going to have an experience. It's going to be undeniable. Now the difference between the two aren't subtle, because it's like, boom. There's such a big difference between what it feels like to receive a thought from the spirit world and what it feels like to think your thoughts. And now you know the difference. Okay? But that's the problem. Most people try here and there. They do one or two things and that's it. And then they just go on and they just listen to, read and just keep trying different things instead of just picking one. Like literally just stand up and talk like there's a spirit right there in front of your face. Loved one, spirit guide, angel, other energetic being, doesn't matter. Love, pets, doesn't matter what it is. Stand up, speak to one spot, keep talking, keep asking them, tell them about your day, ask them advice, be specific, tell them how much you miss them, keep going. And you will eventually have an experience that's undeniable right then, the first time you try it. The first time you try it, you can get off this live right now. You can wait till it's over and do this and you will have an experience if you can stay in that. And if you can stay in that long enough, right? I've had plenty of people do this. Not one person has told me that they can't, that nothing's happened, right? If you can stand up and talk, and I'm not talking like 5 minutes go by, keep talking. 10 minutes go by, keep talking. 15 minutes go by, keep talking. I've never had anyone take longer than 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes, right? I have a hard time with physical feeling, but the rest I get regularly. So that's another good one too. So I work with a lot of students that have the same problem. So they can get all of the other stuff, but they have a hard time feeling, right? Like feeling the hug of a loved one, right? By like feeling their own energy or feeling the energy of a loved one or feeling the energy of a space, right? Excuse me. Or feeling energy in general, right? It like the physical sensation of energy. Oh, what's happening? There's like this puzzle that popped up so I can keep going live. All right. But anyway, so the feeling, the physical sensation of energy. A lot of people have this, and a lot of people have a hard time with this, all right? And the reason is because our body holds on to a lot of trauma. Our body holds on to a lot of, and it's, there's two types of trauma. There's trauma with the big T and there's trauma with the little t. Right? The trauma with the little t is like difficult situations, shutdown moments, things that we internalize. Then there's the big T that's like physical abuse and like a bad car accident or a bad relationship that ended you get what I'm saying, right? So there's two different types of trauma. And so it can be big T, little t, or all of the above, all right? And our body holds on to all of that. And so when we have a hard time feeling and sensing energy, usually we have a hard time feeling and sensing our body and knowing our own body. And so what that is, it's we need to release. We need to be able to release that trauma. And then the more that we do, we will feel. Because right now, remember I said we've got energy, we project our energy into this body, but it's just a small portion of our energy. The rest of us is non-physical. What happens is the energy that's in our body feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable, so we're never fully present in our body, and that's why we're not feeling. That's not why we're not feeling sensations through our body. And so once we feel comfortable in our own body, once we've expressed these emotions, once we've let go of what's been holding us back, once we've faced these uncomfortable things where we've shut down and released them and had that cathartic release, that's when we start to feel more comfortable in the body. Right? I have to work with this a lot with different students. And this is less about, there's no practicing any kind of like spiritual stuff. Like we're not, like I can't hold your hand and walk you into like feeling a spirit if you have this problem. Like we're getting down and we're doing somatic work, right? We're going to work with the body. We're going to release that trauma. That's the first thing that we have to do when we're facing when we're facing this feeling of energy. But there's a caveat to this, right? People that don't feel real well, usually they're very good at the other senses. The other senses are really strong because they're not fully present in the body, right? They're closer to spirit world. And so those other senses